The notion of history, whether we're talking about the history of the present, or ancient history, or the way we need history to understand our time and eventually not repeat the mistake of history, is very present in Quaytman's work. One of the great examples of that is, I think, the painting we have here, where you see first the decision that I described before about the way she makes painting. A source, an image coming from art history, layered with other iconographic details. The thing here is that this image is a very specific image. This image here is a monotype by Paul Klee, belongs to the collection of the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, where Quaytman had an exhibition. In Jerusalem, she asked to see this painting by Paul Klee, which is extremely rare and has a long history. So this work, if we talk about icon and iconography, is a key work. This angel, Angelus Novus, this angel of history, is a key work to understand the 20th century and the history of the 20th century. Furthermore, it's also a work that belonged to the philosopher Walter Benjamin, who wrote the essay, The Work of Art at the Age of Reproducibility, when photography, which is a medium that can be reproduced, enters the making of art, and what did it mean philosophically for art. If you look at Quaytman's work, this notion of reproducibility is also at the center of her work. So you have many, many layers here that come to this image. But a little bit as she did with the painting by Otto van Veen, she got more interested in this work. And she noticed that the Paul Klee work was actually glued on another piece of paper. And she became fascinated to figure out what was this piece of paper that in her mind looked like another engraving. And she did tons of research, and she discovered that the underlayer of Angelus Novus was actually a print by the artist Luca Cranach, a print which was a portrait of Martin Luther. And by discovering, and uncovering history, she put her finger on something which is actually quite controversial, that this work, the angel of history, that goes back to the drama of German history, was glued on the portrait of a theologist and philosopher which was known to be a fierce anti-Semite. The last painting in the exhibition is also the last painting that Rebecca Quaytman has painted. The painting that you have here, The Sun Doesn't Move, parenthesis, Dear Jones, has a long and very layered history. First, it's a painting that she has produced during the months and months of confinement that we have all experienced. Historical history to better embrace and comprehend the history of the present. For me, in many ways, this painting, which is very, I would say, eccentric, or maybe a new departure in her work, is at this juncture in her work, where the past and the present come together. Of course, now that you've seen the rest of the exhibition, you see all the aesthetic decision that she has made over the years implemented here. In this painting, which is, I think, to this date, one of the largest paintings that she has made, you see we had the alphabet earlier in the same style. You have here the year, 2020. We talk about books and the shape of the book and the chapter. You have here the shadow of a book. Of course, it's a painting that has a central subject matter, the American flag. She also produced this painting after she wrote an essay on the American painter Jasper Jones, known for his work dedicated to the American flag. This idea of the year 2020 in America, which doesn't need to be described, I think it's on the front page of every newspaper in the world, what's happening in 2020. In the United States, we'll enter a new phase, and I think that's what she is referring here. Actually, at some point, we will put on SERRALVES website a stop action that documents the different stages of this painting. If you have the opportunity to see this film, you will see that the painting went through many stages. Behind the book here, in this location of the painting, you had portraits of the 45th president of the United States and portrait of Vladimir Putin. You will see the painting taking many, many different shapes, but still within a language. The arc of the golden section is still here. You have incarceration here. You might even recognize here element that might come from her interest or what she lifted out of the Polish painter Straczynski. And then you can see also one of the first very early American flag as it was designed and created by Betsy Ross, where the stars were actually installed in a circle. And there too, she made an analysis of the different iteration of different stars, from the Jewish star to the Masonic star that came into the making of this flag. When Quaytman talks about this painting, she looks at that as an eye. For me, that's very much what her painting invites us to do. We are the witness of history, from American history, European history. When you leave the gallery, you have this long series of paintings with trains in Poland. You have an image, a photograph of a concentration camp, Treblinka. And I think to conclude, when you look at all these paintings, it's about making a trace. It's about how can we continue to push painting forward today. But it's also about, I would say, this anxiety of history. How do we live with our history, and how do we contribute to our history? And with history, there is a sense of responsibility that comes with when you make an image that will become, or not, an icon, and then will inform generations to come about history. And that's what the work is about. How an image today can carry this anxiety and our responsibility vis-à-vis our own history.